transition to-do list still includes deciding just how he plans to hand off his complicated and wall off his presidency from its decision-making. He had promised to do so this past week, but says he needs a bit more time. We do know Ivanka Trump is coming to the White House. With an office now, East Wing, West Wing. Sarah Murray will help me out on that in a minute. In a tweet on Monday, the president-elect said this about his businesses. 2 of my children, Don and Eric, plus executives, will manage them. No new deals will be done during my term, or terms, there you see that, in office. Later in the week, his children were involved in an official transition meeting with technology executives. One of the many examples critics use to question whether Trump's children can manage his business if they're also involved in official government business. This is a tricky one. And they get a little sensitive about it, but you do have his daughter Ivanka, who many people thought after the campaign that she would run the Trump organization. Now she's coming into the White House. Her husband, Jared Kushner, they're trying to figure out the nepotism rules, but apparently he comes into the White House. Don and Eric run the Trump organization, but they're helping pick cabinet members, and they're showing up at these meetings. Kosher?
I'm going to go ahead and say not exactly. Look, there is going to have to be a point, and Hope Hicks acknowledged in a statement that there would be a point where the sons would be taking over the businesses, and Trump would no longer be getting briefed on it. He's even open to no longer having conversations with his sons about the business. That one is a little bit harder to believe. But Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump are both coming to Washington. Whether they are given formal titles or remain in some sort of amorphous role advising him, to be determined. She was supposed to have an office in the East Wing. That may be changing. She may get an office in the West Wing. It may be less formal than that, depending on how they deal with it. And on the one hand, you sort of get it. Donald Trump has spent his life building this business. You understand why he doesn't just want to sell it all off and leave himself with nothing after the presidency. But he also campaigned for a year and a half on the notion that the presidency was so much more important than anything he was doing in the corporate world. And so I think what you're seeing is them really struggling on any way to draw a line. And when you talk to some people who are close to Trump and close to the family members, they admit privately there will never be a clear, bright line.
And he also campaigned about, he accused the Clintons of pay to play. He said he was going to drain the swamp. This past week, New York Times reporting that they were auctioning off a coffee with Ivanka as part of a charity fundraising effort. And on the one hand, you can say it's a charity fundraising effort. Good that people use their influence. On the other hand, if she's going to have an office in the White House, it strikes you as pay to play, and apparently that's been canceled.
Yeah, and what's striking about it is that I don't think they really appreciate why it's problematic, or even really care for that matter. Take the example of the Interior Secretary nomination, not the most high-profile cabinet post, but one where you really saw this on vivid display. We had a story in the paper yesterday about Don Trump Jr. Was sitting in on the interviews and, in fact, played a key role in torpedoing the nomination of a member of Congress on the House side, Ms. Rogers, who was widely thought to get that post until Don Trump Jr. intervened, and they then elevated a different congressman instead. He literally is in these meetings talking to these possible candidates, and then is sort of urging his dad for or against. It's striking, and I'm really actually surprised that nobody in Congress has stood up to say, hey, I'm not so sure that this is kosher.
And yet, one counter-argument that you hear from a lot of people around Trump is that they're very happy with the idea that Ivanka and Jared in particular will be in Washington and in the White House because they are a calming presence and they can be a moderating presence. So you get these questions about the businesses, but also a lot of people who are quite happy to have those two folks in the White House.
I think Sarah's point is the operative one, which is that they will not draw bright lines, and they will continue to push the edge of the envelope on this as long as they can. And in some ways, the legal aspects of this are still a little murky and yet to be worked out.
And again, 33 days, and if you're a Trump critic, you get mad at me when I say this. Give him grace. He's not president yet. Give him grace for 33 days, and then he'll be held accountable. We'll see what happens. Our reporters share from their notebooks next, including some insight on the contest for chairman of the Democratic Party. And our quiz results, we asked which cabinet secretary is lowest in the line of succession behind the president: Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, Homeland Security, or Education. The votes were split. The answer is Homeland Security Secretary, a cabinet position that was only established in 2003. It's already the 3rd largest cabinet department in the United States government, but low on the list. Thanks for voting.